What if you knew what men secretly wanted, but they could never tell you? Right here, right now, is the surprising reason men aren't committing to you and exactly how to get them to commit and say yes now. Hello, my name is James Bauer, and if you've ever wanted to know how to truly understand any man, then this is the most important video you'll ever watch. You're going to discover a secret loophole in the male mind that will allow you to truly connect with any man and get him to commit to you for good. You'll also learn about a simple shift you can make to see the world through a different lens, a lens that will reveal exactly what men are thinking and what they really want in a woman. Read on to discover how you can use this powerful principle in your life to become more attractive to men and have an incredible relationship starting today. Let me ask you, have you ever had a feeling that things were going well with your man, but somehow knew that something was wrong and had a feeling of dread that you can't quite place? Have you tried to have the talk with your boyfriend to figure out the status of your relationship, only to have him suddenly go cold at even the mention of commitment? Have you been in a relationship with an amazing guy before when he suddenly became distant and his whole attitude changed, and before you knew it he was gone? Have you felt things were going great with a guy, and this could be your boyfriend or your husband, and you want to do everything in your power to make sure the relationship not only survives but thrives? Have you ever wondered if he really loves you, or if he's bored in the relationship? Have you just wanted to make him see that inside you're the perfect girl for him, and together you would make the perfect couple and live an amazing life together? Well, you're definitely not alone in these experiences. As a relationship consultant, I hear unfortunate stories like this all the time, but when the problem hit a little too close to home, I knew I had to do something about it. You're about to discover a deep-seated gap in communication that very few women or men understand. This same gap has the biggest impact on the success or failure of a relationship, yet hardly anyone talks about it. The good news is, if you know how to bridge the gap, it's possible for you to enjoy a rare kind of relationship most women simply can't imagine. A bright and vivid romance that makes life exciting and worth living. I'm going to tell you about the lunch that changed everything. Since I'm a relationship consultant, I get asked for relationship advice a lot from my female friends, and a short time ago, I agreed to sit down for lunch with a woman that I've known for a very long time. She was experiencing an emotionally painful situation that I had heard of many times before. She had met a new guy at work, and at first things were exciting and seemed to be going really well. It started with tantalizing phone calls and texts, and soon moved on to romantic dates she would rush home to tell her friends all about. For weeks, she thought everything was going perfect. They would spend all night talking and text flirt all throughout the workday. And one day, while on a date with him, she couldn't help but feel so good about how things were going. They had an amazing romantic night together. They gushed on the phone that night about what the future held, and the night ended really well. But that's where things went bad. During their nightly call, he suddenly became very silent. She had never known him to be like that before. He was usually so cheerful and romantic. She tried to figure out what was wrong, but he just said that he was tired and had to go. But that was just the beginning. She tried to call him the next day, and again he ended the call a lot sooner than normal. Soon her text started to go unanswered, and before long, they stopped altogether. She never heard from him again. She didn't want to tell her friends about it because of how many times she had told them he was the one and how amazing everything was. But that night she went to sleep wondering if she was just terminally flawed when it came to dating, thinking maybe she was just meant to be single forever and never know what it was like to have a secure and loving relationship. The next morning she woke with the same feeling of dread and loneliness she had felt for years. She was in so much pain she couldn't even go to work, so she decided it was time to call me up. It was hard for me to hear. There was obviously a lot of pain in her voice. Unfortunately, I hear this story all the time, and the worst part is, she didn't even know what she was doing wrong or why he didn't call her back. I cared deeply for this girl, and I was very familiar with this specific problem. But as we sat there and talked, an idea struck me like a lightning bolt. That past week I had been trying to understand and solve a similar but unrelated problem for a course I was creating primarily for men. With a surge of excitement, it suddenly occurred to me that both issues were actually very related. It all had to do with a primal driving force in all men that few, if any, are even aware of. Using a little creative problem solving, I quickly formulated a simple solution I was confident would work for any situation. The answer had been right in front of me. It's something that I now call the respect principle, and it's the biggest key for getting any man to want to truly commit to you. Once I told her about the insight and the solution I had, which really only took about 10 minutes to explain, she completely lit up. I didn't expect her to believe me so quickly, but she seemed to instinctively get it. She knew what she had to do differently, and she was eager to put her new knowledge into action. For her, it became a story with a fairy tale ending. She's now engaged to an amazing man that adores her for who she is because she actually understands the way he thinks and the way he experiences relationships. But for so many women out there, things just aren't as easy. They don't understand this vital principle. The root of the problem actually comes from a deep misunderstanding that you see everywhere in the media and popular shows and magazines. Sometimes it happens during the attraction phase, and sometimes the same root problem manifests much later when talk of marriage and commitment comes up. But the good news is, it's not your fault, and there's a clear and effective plan for easily overcoming the problem. The key is understanding men on a deep emotional level, and how the subtle things you say to a man affect him much more than you might think. When you know how to do this, you'll be able to deeply connect with a man and powerfully attract him. Let me show you what I mean. Here's the truth about how men think. Research on how men think reveals a surprising fact. There's a vast divide in the way men and women think. Now, I know that that's not exactly breaking news, but the specific thing I'm talking about is actually something that very few women understand, and it's absolutely critical to truly connecting with a man on a deep emotional level. I'm talking about something that saturates his mental and emotional experience so much that he would have a hard time explaining it to you because he doesn't even realize it's there. To put it simply, if given a choice, men would rather be respected than loved. In other words, men are powerfully attracted to women who trigger feelings of respect and admiration in them, and this is absolutely key. Now, you probably feel like you have a pretty clear picture of what this means, but it's more of a deep-seated issue than you might think. Here's an example. There's a lady that wanted to do research on this subject. She created a simple survey men could take that only had 2 questions. Would they rather feel 1, alone and unloved in the world, or 2, inadequate and disrespected by everyone? Many of the men responding to the survey were confused because they couldn't see any difference between the 2 options. In other words, they saw the 2 options as the same thing. Now think about the implications of that. Also, consider that even with this confusion, 74% of men say they would rather feel unloved than disrespected. So what does that have to do with getting a man to commit to you? Everything. When you understand this principle, you'll have an unfair advantage that steals a man's attention and makes you irresistibly attractive to him. Every other woman will pale in comparison, and you'll be the only thing on his mind when he sees you as the one woman that truly gets him. So how does the respect principle work? Well, we're not talking about respect like in the Godfather movies, but more like this. Here's what it looks like. I recently shared this very principle with a woman that felt like her marriage was slipping away and needed some help from me. After I shared everything with her, it was like the secret world of how men think was suddenly revealed to her. Things that used to baffle her suddenly made perfect sense. When he went cold and silent, she knew exactly why and how she had accidentally triggered it. So she started to make simple changes like I recommended. They were just simple things like changing just one word in her language in certain situations. Others were simple shifts in her attitude that made a massive difference in his. Before she knew it, they felt exhilarated to be in each other's company, and things just keep getting better for her. In her own words, she said, "It feels like we're going through the honeymoon phase again." And that's just the beginning. Things will continue to snowball in their relationship, and their love will continue to grow more and more. Why? Because you want someone that truly understands you. It's that deep connection that emotionally bonds you with another person. It's the kind of togetherness you feel when you know that you're braving the world with your other half. Someone that knows you just as well or better than you know yourself. That's what we all want, right? Well, that's definitely what your man wants. He just doesn't know how to say it. He wants these things as badly as you do. He just sees the world in a much different way. So few women really get the respect principle, but when you do, you'll know how to subtly show him through your actions that you truly understand him, and his attraction and devotion towards you will soar. This hidden issue is responsible for serious pain and frustration in countless women's lives. But when you have the respect principle, you'll have the most powerful secret weapon there is for understanding, attracting, and committing any man. When I saw how well this advice worked for these women outside of a professional setting, something inside me told me how important it was to get this information out there. So I decided right then and there that I was going to do everything I could to show women everywhere how they can easily overcome the gap and create the love and security they've always been looking for in a relationship. I immediately began testing the respect principle on some of the many women I talked to on a regular basis to see if the results were as good for them. I offered the advice to women in any of these frustrating situations. Situations like she's in a great relationship, but the man suddenly starts to draw away and she doesn't even know why, and maybe even feels like it was something she did wrong. Or during the attraction phase, she always finds herself sabotaging her own dating success by saying things she thinks that he wants to hear, but are really driving them farther apart. Or when she wants to upgrade the relationship to marriage status, but fails miserably while trying to have the talk, and afterwards things just don't feel the same anymore. Or when, even though she feels like he could be the one because he's a great guy, she just feels like he hasn't really seen the real her and wants a true emotional connection. So they tested the idea out in their lives, and almost immediately there was an explosion of interest. The real-life results I started to hear back were remarkable. So I started improving the basic formula as I got feedback from all these women, and it grew to be more and more effective. Every night I would write for hours after work, compiling all the amazing results and making the formula even better. Then finally, not too long ago, I finished the complete guide into what it is today. I was amazed at how fast the word was spreading about it. The Respect Principle Guide had the secret power to change thousands of women's lives. I just needed to share it with more and more people, and if it kept spreading like it already was, it could potentially fix this problem that was harming so many relationships out there. Once the guide was finished, I started getting tons of emails from friends of friends asking if they could get a copy because it sounded like exactly what they needed. I was happy to help them out, and the responses just kept pouring in. And you want to know the best part? You can use this powerful guide and make the shift in thinking that can bring a level of respect, love, and security in your relationships that you never imagined was possible. It's been specifically designed to be something you can use tonight and start seeing amazing results in your man and relationships immediately. You'll be able to understand any man, know his inner desires, and be able to draw him in as you say the exact things that will attract him to you on a primal level. I must admit that I'm extremely excited for you to get your hands on this guide. This is the exact kind of powerful ingredient of change that I had been looking for so long. Now, of course, this guide wouldn't be complete if I didn't share some of the nitty-gritty on how to really get inside his mind. This is the real secret to having a fulfilling relationship with a man. If you want to trigger strong feelings of attraction and adoration in your man, you have to know how to get on the same frequency with him. Imagine never having to deal with the silent treatment again, which is really just code for I'm angry but I don't want to talk about it. When you know how to read him and know what he's thinking and feeling, unpleasant situations like the silent treatment will be a thing of the past. But it gets much better than that. Have you ever wanted a guy that goes through the motions? I'm talking about simple things like opening the car door for you, getting dressed up for nice dates, bringing you breakfast in bed, or just going above and beyond and showing you that he cares. These are the types of things guys do when they really appreciate you and want you to know that you're always on their mind. You'll notice these and many other dramatic changes in your man when you start using the respect principle. You'll suddenly be one of those women that's just lucky with men and has the kind of relationships that so many women